Hello, we are going to talk about transactions. To start a transaction in MySQL, type start space transaction in your MySQL prompt. We'll say query OK, 0 rows affected, which means it is not affecting any rows in any table, and this query is OK. Now we have not seen any query that does not affect the table directly. All the queries we have seen so far affect the table. For example, a select query from employees will print all the rows in the table employees. Insert query, will insert some values. Update query will update some values. Now, what is a transaction? Now, to understand what is a transaction, I'm going to show off my drawing skills, because transaction is not one query. Transaction is usually a set of queries or a set of commands. You know the English word transaction already, which is an interaction between two entities. And the most simple example of transaction is used in the context of payment or money. You have a transaction in your bank. So let's say here is my bank account. It's me, Unmesh, and I'm going to use as an example Fede. This is my bank account and this is Fede's bank account. Now let's say I'm transferring him 50 euros. I don't know why. I'm transferring him 50 euros. If you are using, let's say, ING as a bank app, then the bank must have some database for us, right? Database for all the customers. Now, this is my pocket and this is for this pocket, and 50 euros going from my pocket to Fede's. The ING bank, they will have a table of all the clients with, let's say, account number and balance as the columns. There will be, of course, more columns. I'm going to say U for my account and F for his account. Now let's say balance in my account is 500 and for this account the balance is 700. Now what should happen when I transfer 50 euros to him? There are at least three things that are happening now. Number one, my account balance should be the current balance minus 50. Second thing, balance of Fede should be F equal to F plus 50. And the third thing is that when we both look at our accounts, we should see the updated values. So I should see 450 and Fede should see 750 because it's added. So if you have to translate this transaction into database, you basically need two update statements, right? You need to update this table. Let's call this table ing. So we need to update table ing and set balance equal to balance minus 50, where account ID is account ID of Unmesh, and update ing balance equal to balance plus 50, where account ID equals to account ID of Fede. Now what happens if the server crashes, the ING server crashes after executing the first update, which is deducting account from my balance or my account, deducting 50 euros from my account, and then the server crashes. It's a very bad situation because the balance is gone from my account and it is not updated in his account. So this is a very bad transaction because it's not complete, because this transaction is complete only when these both update statements are executed successfully. So you understand how important it is to combine these two update statements as if one update statement. Even though there are two update queries, I have to update this row and I have to update this row. Combination of these two updates is one single query. So when you want to treat a number of queries as one query, such an atomic query is called as transaction. Now, atomicity is one of the properties of database transactions. There are 4 properties in total, and we are going to see them one by one. And the first property is atomicity. You guys know what is atom, right? Atom is the smallest part of the element. Any element cannot be further penetrated. So atom is the smallest. So when we say transaction is atomic, we mean that you do everything in that transaction or you do nothing. So if this is my transaction that contains query 1, query 2, query 3, query 4, then atomic transactions mean I do all of them or I do nothing, which means there should be a facility to roll back or undo the changes that you have done. So let's say I execute query 1, I execute query 2, and then something bad happens. Then it should be possible to roll back the changes made by query 1 and query 2. Now we are going to do exactly that. So what have we done here? By start space transaction, this command means I have started a transaction. And you should also do before start transaction, which is set auto commit equal to 0. This is important because by default any query you are executing on the MySQL command line client is going to be executed by the server and it will be automatically committed. I will tell you the meaning of commit in a minute, but for now, to have a demonstration of atomic transaction, I'm going to set auto commit equal to 0, which means I will not automatically commit any of my queries. I will have to explicitly commit them with the command. So I set auto commit equal to 0, then I do start transaction. Now I'm going to show you select star from employees. So I'm in the company's table. These are my employees. Now I want to update salary of someone. Let's say update employees, set salary equal to 10,000, where employee number equal to 101. I'm increasing salary of Dema to 10,000. There I go. So let's start from employees. See, I have salary of 10,000, but I realize that Dima is getting too much salary. It's not correct. So I want to undo this transaction. What I can do is roll back, and when I roll back, say 0 was affected. Now I'm going to see the content of employees table again. Tada! The salary of Dima is again back to 3,000. So remember, whenever you start a transaction, you have to do one of the two things. Either you roll back the transaction or you commit the transaction. When you commit, it is the end of transactions. So this is the start of transaction. And let's say you do query 1, query 2, and then before query 3 or query 4, if you do commit, then to execute more queries, you have to start another transaction. So every transaction starts with the command start transaction and it ends with either commit or rollback, which means you can roll back more than one transaction. Let's see the example. So start transaction again. Now I'm going to update some more values. So I will do update employee set salary equal to 10,000, and I will do update employees, and I will say set salary equal to 50,000. Why not, for Jalal? And I will also update employees set DPTNO equal to 5002 for all of them. I will change everyone's department to 5002, and I will update employees set city equal to Mumbai, where employee number equal to 105. Change, what did I make a change? Update employees set city equal to Mumbai, where employee, the syntax. Oh, employee ID. No, what is it? Let's see. So let's start from employees. Update employees is set city equal to Mumbai, where employee underscore NO equal to 105. What is the problem here? Check the manual. Salary is working correctly. Let's see. City equal to Mumbai, where employee number equal to 102. Yeah, okay. And 105, I'll also change the city. Now I realize I have made a lot of changes that are not correct, because I change the department of all of them to 5002. I changed the city of 2 people, I changed salary of Dima, and I changed salary of Jalal. And all these changes I want to roll back. I can do that in one single command, roll back. And if I now select from employee, all the changes are undone. See, the departments are back to their previous value. The city of Jalal and Humbing are back to their original cities. The salaries are updated to the previous values. So rollback works for all the commands that are between start transaction and rollback. They are all rolled back. And conversely, they can also be committed explicitly. So now I'm going to again start a transaction, then make a commit. So let's say update employees set salary equal to 6,000, where employee employee number equal to 105. So Humbing gets a promotion, increase her salary. If I see select start from employees, it's updated, and I'm going to type commit instead of rollback. Now if I do select start from employees, the salary is updated. Remember, after commit you cannot do a rollback. It will have no effect, because when you commit, it's the end of the transaction. And commit also makes a checkpoint. Checkpoint is something for your MySQL server, because the MySQL server will remember when the client made a commit, and that commit will work as a snapshot. And that takes me to the fourth property actually, which is durability. I'll mention the second and the third property because it's an acronym. So second property starts from C and the third property starts from I. So its acronym is called ACID, and it's commonly known as ACID properties of database transactions. So Atomicity is treating a set of queries as one, and durability is when the database transactions are durable, which means you take backups and you store the data properly with a lot of backups, so that anytime when you start a database, your tables and your rows and columns and your structure is there. And to make that happen, your MySQL server always checks for the checkpoints, and these checkpoints are determined by the commit. So every time you make checkpoints, the server will have a snapshot of your database, so that those changes are preserved. And you can always load them when you start your MySQL client. Even though on your machines you have MySQL server and client on single machine, in real companies you will have one or two dedicated servers that are your MySQL servers that store all the database, your tables, and you have multiple client computers that are connecting to this MySQL servers and fetching the data. It's where the durability plays the most part, because you can make more copies. You can ask your MySQL server to make more copies of your data so that your data is durable. Now, when to make copies of your data is determined by the checkpoints or snapshots or your commits. When you make a commit, you are telling your MySQL server that this is an important snapshot, make some use of it. So durability feature makes use of commits or snapshots. Now let's look at the second property, which is consistency. As the name suggests, consistency is a property where the database should be always in the consistent state. And what do I mean by that? It means whenever there are multiple database clients trying to connect to the server and fetching the output, they should all see the same output. Now I'm going to make two clients here just to demonstrate. So this is a new shell. I'm going to start MySQL server here with hyf user. So now on my computer I have two MySQL clients and MySQL server running as well. So this is my client, this is my second client. If I use the same database, it should be possible. I can do select star from employees. These are the values. See, I get the salary updated by this client over here. Now let me do it from here. Update employees set city equal to Mumbai, where employee NO equal to 107. The last employee, I'm changing the city. If I go back to my first client and I select star from employees, see, I don't see the value yet. And why is this the case? Now I want to see what is the value of my auto commit here. I said commit, so let's start from employees. I get employee, the city for Ali is Mumbai. City for Ali is still Aleppo here, and it's still the same. So both of these users, both of these clients have their own view for the database, but the consistency property is violated here. Now let's see, this is because of the transaction, because we are in the transaction here. So I'm going to see rollback here and select star from employees. There we go. So this is updated because of other client, but this client should still see the updated value. And the reason it took some time, because I was already in a transaction. So the consistency property will enforce that the change made by one database client will be reflected in the database server, and the other client will see that change sooner or later. So here you observe that there was some delay in between. When I did select start from employees here, I did see city of Ali as Aleppo, and after a while I saw select star from employees Mumbai. It was a change made by this other database client, of updating the city, it took a while to reflect. But eventually, both clients will see the same state of table. So that is the consistency property. So it can happen that sometimes if the change is being made, it will take a while for that change to be affected. So let's try to make change from this client, and then we will check if that change is reflected here. So update employees where set salary equal to 7,000, where employee no equal to 107, and commit, because I have set auto commit to false. So I have to explicitly commit every transaction. If I go back to this client, so let's start from employees. See 7,000 is reflected immediately because I did a commit. Now I'm going to set auto commit to true, because this is a good idea when you are using the MySQL client, because every query you want to have immediate effect. Set auto commit equal to 1, which is true. Let's start from employees. The value is reflected as we saw. And this was consistency property, that both clients see the same state of the database, which means same values in every column and every row and every table. So now you know what is atomicity. Consider the set of transactions as one transaction. You know consistency, different users will see the same view of the database, and durability, where you make snapshots, which is equivalent to commits, and MySQL server will take use of it. If you happen to learn about database administration, then you will deal with the durability property more, how to make copies and stuff like that. Now we are going to take a look at isolation. Because of the current situation, you guys are aware of isolation. Everybody is isolating themselves, but we are going to deal with isolations in databases, and it has to do with users isolating. So much like us, everybody is now isolating themselves to their homes, but that doesn't mean the life has to stop. We are still working on our stuff, still eating, we are breathing, we are doing our things. And for database clients, isolation means multiple database clients can do queries in isolation. Now, isolation and consistency sound very similar, but I'm going to show you a difference with demonstration. So isolation means multiple database clients can interact with the same database at a time without affecting each other. Now I'm going to try to make change in this table. I'm going to set auto commit equal to 0 again. No, this is not necessary, but I want to do locking of the table. So I don't know if you have seen it or not, but you remember we had a database dump, MySQL dump. If you look at the dump file carefully, you can see this command called lock tables, name of the table, comma right. Means whenever you are updating a table, which means you are changing either rows or columns or both. Basically, when you are updating the values of the table, which means you are writing to the table, you are changing the state of the database, you have to grab a lock in order to do that, because you want to ensure consistency. If you grab a lock, then other users will be prevented from seeing the values. So let's try to see this. Now I'm going to grab a lock, just following the commands here. So I will do lock tables employees right, which means I grab a write lock. There are two types of lock, write lock and read lock. When you have a write lock, no other people can do read or write. So I do lock tables employees right, which means I want to make some changes on the employees table. Now I start making changes. I do update employees, set salary equal to 1000 where employee number equal to 102. Jalal's salary is going down. You didn't get promotion. He got a demotion instead. Let's give promotion to Ali. His salary is 6000 now. One person gets a hike, other person has to get a demotion, something like that. Now let's go to the other client and try to do select star from employees. Ta-da! Why does it take so long to get the output? It's because the other database client, other MySQL client has grabbed a write lock on employees table, which means the MySQL server is denying the view of employees table to this client because the MySQL server knows that the other client is making some changes because the other client has a write lock on it. So when will I able to see the content? As soon as the other client does the unlock tables. Ta-da! See, I see the change of Jalal's salary and Ali's salary because the other client unlocked the table. But still, this client could send commands. Now, what does isolation mean? If I do a read lock instead of a write lock, where is it? Lock tables employees, and instead of write I say read. I do select star from employees. The other client, I can also do select star from employees where gender equal to F, for example. This is totally fine because this client has only acquired a read lock, which means only permission to view the content, only read the content, and two people can read at the same time. But if one person is reading while other person is writing, it's difficult, and with two concurrent users it's easy to manage or easy to imagine or visualize. But imagine you have hundreds of users and some of them want to write, it will be very clumsy and messy. So database server allows only one user at a time to write, or if it allows multiple user, then there has to be a proper sequence. But we are not going into details of how to arrange transactions. There are all sorts of conflicts, but if you don't do any write, there are no conflicts. Let's say if you grab a write lock on employees table, if I do select star from employees, I cannot do anything, so I can just abort the query, but I can still do select star from departments, and I can do queries on the departments. So when one user is grabbing a lock on the table, that does not mean another user cannot do anything. This user is only prevented from reading the content of the table on which this other user has grabbed a write lock, because this user is making changes. So if that is clear, you can play with this and see how we cannot unlock employees, unlock tables. That's the meaning of durability. Sorry, isolation, that multiple users can execute queries at a time by grabbing and releasing locks on the table. That's atomicity. All the queries in one transaction, treat them as one. If you fail one, you can roll back. If you succeed in all of them, then you do commit. Consistency, multiple database clients will see the same state of database. Isolation, multiple database users can independently execute queries. And durability, your database state will not be lost. There will be backups based on snapshots and the commits. So your database will be durable. It will be safe whenever you make commits and snapshots. Let's see if I'm missing any content. Nope. So that's all about ACID properties. These are called ACID properties and they are applied to relational databases like MySQL.